Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Thriving LDS Singles podcast. We're so excited to have you here. And I know I've been missing the last couple of weeks. Paul, my co-host Kim, you've been doing it by yourself.
No, I'm a one-man show. It's not as fun.
Yeah. But together, we're here today, and we have the wonderful Tom Robinson that we're interviewing today. Hi, Tom.
Hi, thank you. I like that you added wonderful in front of that. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been chatting for a few minutes, and I definitely can add the wonderful. Tom runs a podcast of his own, and it's called Dating Made Simple. So we're going to talk about dating today.
Nice.
And although he was just telling us that he's, started it for the young single adults, all of the advice is applicable to all of us, and how he's interested in growing that audience as well. So, but Tom, tell us about, because you're single. So you run a podcast called Dating and you're single. So what's the story?
Yeah, you'd think I'd know more about dating, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you know dating. It's like most people think dating leads to this thing called marriage. So
yeah, and then marriage leads to divorce sometimes. So
not all. Let's be hopeful.
Not always. Not always.
Not always. Yeah.
So not always.
So tell us about why are you single? What's happened?
Why? Well, I was married for 32 years and we stopped talking, and one thing led to another, and we just didn't love each other anymore. And so we split up, and then a year later thought that I was having a big revelatory moment and that there was a new person that I had met that I should marry. And so we got married, and we were married for 5 years, and we just were two opposite. We were opposite on everything. And so we tried for 5 years to make it work, and it just didn't. So we got divorced. And so now I've been single again for a year and trying to figure out the single world again, and trying to figure out what to do, and trying to use my expertise as a dating expert on how to do it. I do call myself the self-proclaimed dating expert. So you'd think, well, my co-host on the podcast says I am really good at dating and really bad at marriage. So I think that's true. So
okay, so we need another podcast called Marriage Made Simple.
Yeah, Marriage Made Simple. If only at work. If only at work, eh?
So true.
So one of the things you said to us was that you're really good at giving dating advice. It's just taking it yourself that's the hard bit. And
yes,
I guess that's where most of us are at. Like, we've lived a bit of our life now, and we sort of, we know stuff. But maybe on dating we're not so good.
Yeah, it's always harder to apply it.
I think we're better than we know we are. So
okay. So tell us the premise behind your podcast, like you were telling us before, where it started.
Yeah, it used to be called It's Just Dinner. Now it's called Dating Made Simple on the It's Just Dinner podcast. And it was called It's Just Dinner because my whole idea was, if we can just stop dating, because there's a lot of pressure with that word. It's almost like preparing for a date, and asking someone on a date is just it's so much nerves and stress to go into that. And so we said, well, just ask someone to go to dinner and just sit and talk and get to know them for 1 hour. Just do it. And so that was the whole premise. And then people would look up It's Just Dinner, and it felt like it was a restaurant review podcast. And so I said, okay, I've got to get the word dating in there. So it's Dating Made Simple, which is really the whole idea behind It's Just Dinner, was that it's really easy to ask someone to go to dinner with you. And I've always said that it's better to have dinner with someone than it is to eat alone. And part of my podcast, and one of the things that I'm really concerned about, is the loneliness epidemic, which we can talk about later. But I feel like if everyone would just ask someone to go to dinner, you'd be a lot less lonely. So I will say one of the things that's interesting that you just mentioned, and we were talking about this beforehand, was I was listening to my own voice say this. The Mutual app came to my podcast room and they interviewed me. So if you go on their Instagram, there's a bunch of little clips on Instagram of me talking. And so I just one of them popped up on Instagram and I was listening to it and I said, this is what I said. It doesn't matter if things aren't working with dating, don't give up. Just keep doing it. And so you guys asked me before, and I said I lost my motivation. And then I listened to my own voice saying, don't give up. Just keep doing it. Just keep asking someone to go out to dinner. And so I think that no matter what, we can't just stop because then what happens is we sink into that loneliness. And I call it the deep, dark hole of despair. And
Mm.
that's not where we want to be. That's where Satan wants us to be.
Yeah.
And there's nothing good that happens in that hole of despair. And so, but we keep going out and asking someone to dinner. It's so much fun to meet someone and to have dinner with them. So
Just get to
I'm
know
going to
them.
have to take my own advice and keep doing it, keep trying.
Yes.
Well, the fun bit to this story is that Tom and Kim actually met on Mutual on that dating app. So,
We did.
but they haven't been on a date, everybody. So, which one of
No.
them is taking the advice?
I sent Tom a note and said, "Hey, I do a podcast too. Let's trade." And so our total mutual chats have been all about the podcast.
Yeah, see, I didn't think Kim really liked me. I thought she just was using me for my podcast.
Well,
I know I told you there's probably a lot of your listeners are going to say, "Yeah, I know him from Mutual too, and he never asked me out either." So
This is your
I really
chance,
get
Tom, to tell everybody to apologize to all those
I
women you
want everyone
messed
to know
out.
I'm really sorry. It has nothing to do with you. It's really my own insecurities. You'd think I'd be better at this, so
Tom, I've got some good advice for you. It's just dinner.
oh. It thank you, Kay. I should, well, see, that's the thing is I should know all of this, right? I should know all of this. But here's the thing that I've learned. It is really hard.
Mhm.
It's really hard. It's not easy to do this. And that's why there's podcasts like yours. There's podcasts like mine because we need help. We need help getting that motivation. And that's why it was so interesting because I'm losing my motivation. And then I hear my own voice on Instagram saying, don't give up. And so I think that's the part of it is that, it's really hard for us to do this.
Yeah.
And it is easy to give up.
Yeah.
And you guys know a lot of people who have just kind of given up on dating.
We just did a whole episode on that, Juan and I, about all the reasons that we give up. So, yeah.
Yeah. What was the biggest one? I'm just curious.
Well, it was actually a kind of fun to do. We didn't rank them, so there were about 10 or 15 of them, but they mostly circled around, and it was from a woman's perspective. So I was always asking Juan, is that true for men too? Which pretty much they were. But they were really circled around, we're just comfortable where we're at. We have peace
Yeah.
and we don't want to disrupt the apple cart. We're
Yeah.
just, we don't want the
Now,
stress.
okay, so now having said that, let me tell you that that's true, and that's men's biggest problem is we can't fit into your life. And that's what happens is we go out to dinner or we go on a couple of dates and realize that you don't really want to get married. You really don't want a relationship. You're really happy where you are. And that's great for women. My opinion is that women are really good at congregating and having friends and being comfortable in their lives, and men aren't. And the research backs me up on this. Men really want to be married. They want to take care of someone. They want to protect someone. And at our age, I don't think, and I don't want to pick on women, but there are a high percentage of women that are very comfortable in their lives and don't really need a man to fit into their lives.
Mm.
And so that's one of the reasons why we give up is that we're just like, they're on these dating apps, they're on Mutual, they're on other dating apps, and they're not really interested in having a relationship or marriage. At least that's from our perspective.
Yeah, I was
Especially really, and I always hear like there's no really good men out there. And I'm like, yeah, there are really good men out there. We just have lost our motivation. And again, I'm not saying it's the women's fault, but it is kind of difficult when you say exactly what you just said. Is
Mhm.
women get comfortable in their lives and men are like, hey, I really want to fit into your life, and we just can't find a way in.
That's so
I
fascinating.
hope all the men agree with me on that. So
Well, we'd like to hear, but we'd love to hear some feedback, everybody. So,
yeah, you have a very high percentage of male
mm.
viewers. So
Yeah.
guys, let me know if I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize. So, but
Yeah. It would be
Well,
fascinating for me because as a woman, I like, there's no question I want to have a man in my life. Like that's just seems obvious to me. But I also am not going to sit around and wait for that. I'm going to fill my life. So it may be easy for a man to perceive that I have all these things going on and I don't want to add to it, which isn't at all the case. But I don't know how you would convey that or make sure that that's the message that you're sending.
okay, can I help you with that?
Yeah, we're gonna have it. We're
Would
gonna
you
have a
just tell, would you
coaching
just tell
session
us,
here.
please? Would you just let us
Be
know?
up front. Because I even hear people like starting to self-select. I'll go out. I very rarely go on a second or a third date, and I'm getting a complex. But I also hear men just say, "Oh, well, I don't have a doctorate degree, so I don't think." Like there's like the first date, and they're starting to say things like, "Oh, I don't have that, so you probably don't want to date me," or "Oh, I'm not very active, so you probably don't want to." And I'm like, "Well, you're saying you're you're giving me all
Yeah,
the reasons why I'm not going to want to
yeah.
date you before we even have a discussion."
That's really bad to do that. And you know what's funny is that everything you're saying isn't any different than it was in high school.
Yeah, that's true.
The exact same thing. It's like we're like looking around like going, okay, well, she doesn't want me. She doesn't want me. And it's like you find excuses to not ask people out. And it's the exact same thing we're doing now. Is
that's a bit sad, isn't it? It's like
it's really
I've
sad.
learned something
Yeah.
by now.
It's like, and I think women are like this too. We're flipping through the dating apps going, okay, she will never go out with me. So she will never go out with me. And so we're doing that. We're defeating our own selves.
Yeah, yeah, because those things aren't important when it comes to relationships, at least in my point of view. I mean, maybe for some women they are, but everyone, I guess, has a list. But those aren't the things that are important to me for sure.
Mm.
So anyway, so tell us, you haven't told us much about you. Also, tell us a little bit about your professional life or kind of your kids, family, kind of where are you?
Okay. Yeah, ladies, I do have a doctoral degree.
No, Kim, you
Just
match.
I'm just putting that
We have
out
not
there that
matched.
I do have a doctoral degree. So I teach at BYU. I teach communications, and I've been at BYU for 22 years, and so a long time. And I have three children, and I have four granddaughters who are absolutely the light of my life, and I think every grandparent will say that. And so I really enjoy being with them, and I'm actually in Phoenix right now with my daughter and her two granddaughters, or her two children, and then also my sisters and brother live here. So I'm getting away from school for a while. I'm on sabbatical right now until January. So I'll be living here in Phoenix, but that's kind of what I do. I play a lot of golf, which I did today. It's why my face is so red. And
It's
then
actually
also
cooler here right now, but it's
it
still
is nice.
hot.
Wow, it is nice here right now. And then I also referee high school football, which I'm getting ready to start doing. So that's how I fill my life.
That's
And
awesome.
we have
And
to
dating, of
remind
course. And dating,
everybody.
of course. I date every week. I like five nights a week.
Um, I just want to. When you say football, you mean American rules football?
American football, Kay. Come on.
Remember, this is a worldwide audience. Worldwide,
Yes.
the term football means soccer.
Yeah, American football.
Right. Okay. Just for the rest of everybody. All right. So,
And you also, one thing you didn't mention that you mentioned beforehand, Tom, was that you were a bishop of a YSA ward at one point, and that's kind of where you got some of your insight in terms of the young single adults and their struggles, right? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to hear that story
I do.
of where my podcast came from? So I was sitting in one of the labs in the communications building at BYU, and I was talking to a couple of young women that I knew and I had in class, and they were getting ready to graduate, and we were talking about life and jobs. And at one point I said, "So who are you dating?" And they both said, "No one." And I'm like, now these are seniors. And I'm like, what do you mean no one? And one of the girls says, I haven't been asked out all semester. And the other girl said, I haven't been asked out since October. And I'm like, what? What is going on? I think everybody that has children that are that age, they will agree with me. Nobody is asking anybody out. And I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out what was going on. So I started doing some research. I mean, I'm a professor, so I started doing research and looking into it and developing theories. And one day, and everything I did started making me really angry about what had happened to our youth. And so one day in class, I'm talking about something, and something hit me and said, okay, you've got to talk about this. You've got to get all this off your chest. So I turned around to the class and I went on a 45-minute rant about dating and relationships. And who I blamed it all on was their parents, their bishops, and their young men's and young women's leaders. That's who I blamed it on because they taught the kids not to date. And so I just was like, I was waving my arms and yelling and stomping my feet. And all of a sudden, I turned around again and I looked at the class, and everybody was going. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to get excommunicated for everything I just said. And one kid in the back raised his hand and he said, you need to tell everyone what you just said. No one has ever been honest with us. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, so I got this idea that I'm like, okay, maybe I'm on to something here. That the reason why they aren't dating is because they were taught not to. And so then I became a bishop and I had test subjects. And so I came up with this whole idea of, okay, stop dating because I knew they weren't dating. I said, get rid of the word dating. And I said, just ask someone to go to dinner. And they said, it's not, so you're not going to go on a date. It's just dinner. So that's where it all started. And so I used it as a bishop and they started doing it. And lo and behold, it worked. They got out of the apartments. They started meeting each other. They started talking. They started having more confidence. They started having more fun. They started actually asking people on real dates. So I even had some marriages out of it. And so then when I got released from being a bishop, my stake president said, okay, we don't want this to die. We want you to keep doing this. So he encouraged me really to kind of keep doing this. So I went on the fireside circuit and I was doing firesides at BYU. I was doing like 12, 13 firesides a semester. So I was doing like one every week. All on this thing about it's just dinner and blaming their parents. They think that's the best part because I rip hard on the parents. And so then I got really tired of doing that. And I talked to my co-host and I said, how about we start a podcast? We just start telling people on the podcast about it's just dinner. And then now it's called Dating Made Simple. And then let's just tell everyone in a podcast. So that's where it all started. And I know it works. I know it works that if you just ask someone to dinner, you eventually will find someone to start dating. And then you find someone to marry. And I always say, I don't know how it works. There's no equation. I don't know, but I do know that if you stop, you'll never find someone. And so this is how we started our conversation. Don't stop. Keep going out to dinner. Eventually, you're going to find someone that you like, that you want to date. And who knows what happens after that? We don't know, which makes it so much more fun, right? We don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes we stop, sometimes we have a relationship, sometimes that relationship turns into something bigger. Sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time it doesn't, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think we have to get comfortable with the fact that that's okay. The relationship didn't work out. And if then you can't sit home and be depressed about it, you got to get out and go to dinner again
Right.
and keep going to dinner till you find the right person. But you have to go in with the right mindset that we're meeting and we're just going to dinner for 1 hour and we're just going to talk and we're going to get to know each other. And if there's no spark, then that's okay. Because you know what? I spent an hour with you and I did not eat alone. I was not sitting in my apartment or my house all by myself eating alone. And it's way more fun to eat with someone than to eat alone.
Yeah.
And you were saying before that you now want to sort of extend your podcast instead of just being the young adults, the people who've never married. You want to sort of extend it.
Yeah, I'll call it a revelation. I had a revelation after I was single and I started going through this whole dating thing again, that we have been targeting young adults because I was a young adult bishop, and we've been targeting that 18 to 25, 18 to 30-year-old group. And what I realized was they don't think they have a dating problem. They don't want to hear that they have a dating problem, and they don't want to listen to a podcast about dating.
Hmm.
But 40-year-olds and over know they have a dating problem, need help with their dating problems, and would be willing to listen to a podcast about dating. And so on my podcast, the Dating Made Simple podcast, we're making a huge shift over to the 40 and over group, which we are all in. And my last two, we did two podcasts at the end of the semester. My last two podcasts that was our first attempt at hitting the 40 and over group. So if you go look at our podcast, the two most recent episodes are 40 and over. And one of them, by the way, we talk about dating apps
Awesome.
because I've been swiping, and we don't need to go into that. We could do that on another episode of your podcast. I've been horrified at dating app profiles. So, which I know the women are horrified too because I've asked women
Yes.
about it, and we really need help on our profile. So
Yes.
anyway, so we're moving to an older market because I think we can, just like you guys, I think we can help us
Yeah.
and give
Awesome.
us advice. By the way, if you go back and Kay, you said this, if you go back and listen to all of my old podcasts, they're targeting 18 to 30-year-olds, but all the information is good for people that are over 40. If people that are my age, what I found is every expert that I've had on my podcast was right. Everything they said was correct. Every expert knows what they're talking about. And so I've actually started using some of that stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what they said about this is true. So all of the old podcasts are great, but we're going to really start targeting that older market.
That's awesome.
All
And
right.
we'll put your links and everything so that people can find
Yeah.
the podcast too.
Yeah, you can find us on Spotify and Apple.
Good.
Those are two of
But
the main ones.
I'm really keen. Like you keep saying, like it's the parents' fault and everybody's fault, and we've taught not to date. Is that applicable too? And like, like we're parents? How are we teaching our children not to date? I've got a 27-year-old daughter who wants to be married. Like,
Well, I think it starts with, again, if you're targeting the 18 to 30-year-olds, it starts when they're 12.
right.
And we start telling them at 12 years old that you have to go on a mission. And so you can't date, don't date. And you have to spend from 12 to 18 now, you have to spend that time preparing for your mission. And that's the most important thing of your life. And if you date, it's going to detract you from going on a mission. So you're better off not dating for the boys. And then you say to the girls now, you want them to go on a mission now, so you're telling them that. But also at 12 years old, you start telling them that you need to start thinking about marriage. You need to start thinking about a celestial marriage. So we've completely skipped over dating. One is to one a mission and then celestial marriage. Even in the old For Strength of Youth, it said if you go on dates, you should go on groups. So
I
then
was
the
just gonna
parents
say
said,
that.
well, you can
Yeah.
only go on group dates.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big thing.
Group dates are impossible. I used the story of my son. I would on a Friday night when he was a senior in high school, I came home and he's sitting on the couch watching TV on a Friday night. And I go, Charlie, why aren't you out on a date? Why aren't you go to the movie with someone? I'm not allowed to single date. I'm like, did I ever tell you that? And he said, no, but that's what they teach us in seminary. I'm like, okay, go on a date. Ask the girl to go. Well, it won't matter. Her parents won't let her go. I said, okay, look, get a group of your friends, have her get a group of her friends, and you all go to the movies. And this is what he said. That's way too difficult. I'd rather stay home alone.
Yeah.
So there's that home alone thing. Instead of parents saying, hey, go out and go on dates, now they're saying, no, don't go on dates. You can only group date. And so we're giving you permission to stay home and be alone and be in your room and be alone and have your phone. And we wonder why there's a pornography problem with our young men. We're not allowing them to date. And so they hide in their bedrooms and it becomes a problem. So that's, and then the bishops are saying the same thing. The young women, men's leaders are saying the same exact things. And so we taught them to not date. Then we say, look, when you get off your mission, you can go to BYU and you'll date everyone. Every weekend you'll have a date and it'll be wonderful. And like I said, no one's dating. No one at
They
BYU
don't
is
have any of
dating.
those skills.
No, they're scared to death. They've never asked someone on a date. When I was a bishop, I had 23, 24, 25-year-olds come into my office and say, I've never been on a date. How is that possible? I mean, you guys, we're all the same age. You remember back, we used to date all the time. We would just date all the time. And now it's, again, you can see how we've taught them to not date. So, and here's the thing.
That was my understanding of BYU was it was just one big date. Like that's
It's not, it's one big problem.
wow.
And so, but here's the thing. And again, I hope your male listeners will tell me if they agree with this, is that all of those things that we've been taught and that we taught our children have now like gotten into our heads and our minds, and that we're now afraid to go on dates. We're now afraid to ask someone to go on a date because we all of a sudden we feel that pressure and everything is like, we told our kids not to go on dates and it's like all this pressure on our own heads is keeping us from doing it. And guys, I would say just go to dinner. I'm saying that to myself, and it's like, okay.
So Tom, I want to ask you a few questions about dating because you mentioned your second marriage and that you got kind of jumped in that too soon or that it felt revelatory. So tell us a little bit about like what your experience was because you hear that a lot. Like I feel like God's telling me this is the right one. So maybe share a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
well, we were dating and we went to the temple and we were doing ceilings, which is a really bad idea. Don't do that. And then it was like I just felt the Holy Ghost like consume me. And the message was this woman across from you is the one that I've prepared for you.
Mm,
And it was like just took over my entire body. Well, then what I learned is that we always have our free agency to either accept that or to not accept that and to make the marriage work or to not make the marriage work.
mm,
And then if both partners are not willing to work on that, it's never going to work, despite what revelation that we had. And that's kind of what I was. I think we both felt like we had a revelation, but neither one of us could make it work. Neither one of us could figure out how it would work. And that's free agency. And that's, you know,
yeah.
I guess I wasn't willing to fit into her life and she wasn't willing to fit into my life. And so that never worked. And I would say we really, really tried hard to get it to work. It just didn't. And we're not enemies. So, but I learned a lot and she taught me a lot. And so I think I'm better prepared for a third marriage. But I've looked at the statistics, and second marriages only last 60% or 40% of the time they work. Third marriage is even less than that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, that's another thing. You lose hope. There's the word hope now. When you think, well, I have a 70% chance of getting divorced a third time if I get married. So why would I even do it? I've already gone through it twice and it's horrible. It's one of the most horrible things in the world. Why
Mhm.
would I get married again if I'm going to,
Right.
if 77 out of 10 chances that I'm going to get divorced if I get married again.
Yeah.
So why do it?
Statistics don't make you feel comfortable, do they? They're not. But
No, no. And so I don't know. You guys tell me. What do you think about those percentages?
unfortunately, I've seen it to be true.
Yeah, me too. But I've always been the one that was wanted to beat the odds in just about anything I ever did. So I'm always like, I can change that statistic. I have so many statistics, life statistics running against me. I'm like, I just can't think about it.
Well,
So that's
I hope
right.
that you can.
I
Yeah.
think we would go into a marriage with that belief that
Yeah.
we're going to be the 30%. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it matters when you actually decide to go into the marriage. I think you'd and I don't know, I hope that we've learned something.
One of the things that I think I learned that if I got married again, I would make sure that there are commonalities. There are things that you have in common.
Mm.
First marriages are great because you have children and you
True.
always have them as something common and you can work towards goals with them and you can help them along and then I guess when they're gone, you kind of look and go, okay, I have nothing in common with this person anymore. If we get into a second marriage, then you're like, you jump into it. You don't have kids anymore. You don't have that in common. And so
True.
you're looking for other things. And if that, it doesn't work. So if I got married a third time, it would only be to someone that I had a ton of stuff in common with.
Yeah.
That we could go to a baseball game or we could play golf or we could go to the gym or we could go to a comedy show and or we could do the things that she likes. If we don't have all that, then there's no way you can get married. In fact, and here I will admit this, and that was I I talked to a therapist and he even said, make a list of the things that you really want that someone to have in common with you. And then when you go on dates, go and look at your list and see how they're doing. By the way, I hate lists, but he's right. And if you don't have those things in common, then don't have a relationship with that person. Don't think about getting married to them, because it will turn out badly. My second wife and I had nothing in common, and it was a really bad situation. It was a really bad marriage because of that. So,
But and I think one of the negatives I see is because we do have children and we're never going to have them in common. So you're going to have your kids and I'm going to have my kids. And so
right,
it's actually going to separate us, not bring us together.
right. Yeah,
Um,
and you can try to bring them together, and sometimes it works out really well.
Mhm.
Sometimes it doesn't. And but you also, those are your kids. Those aren't my kids,
mm,
which is a really weird thing to say, right? So those are your grandchildren. These are my grandchildren over here. And so it's really hard to kind of figure that out. And you're a foreigner to those grandchildren and those children. And so that's why I think that you have to take a lot of time. You have to get to know the kids and get to know your grandkids, find out what you have in common, do all the things that you
Mhm.
need to do with that person. And here's the other piece of advice I would say to both men and women is be yourself on dates,
Yeah.
in a relationship, because you can't pretend to be something while you're dating and then once you're married, turn into somebody else. Go back to who the real you is.
Yeah.
That's not fair to anyone. Be yourself. So if you don't like baseball, tell me. Tell me. Don't say, "Oh yeah, I like baseball. Let's go to the games." And then we get married and then you never want to go to a baseball game again. Okay, that's not fair
Right.
because Because here's the thing. I'm going to be straight up honest. You just lied to me. And
Mm.
that's a terrible way to start a marriage,
Yeah.
is with you lying to me. And so be honest with the person. It's like, yeah, hey, I'm going to use baseball again. I don't really like baseball. And I would say, okay, well, we're probably not a good fit.
Yeah.
But if you say, oh, I love baseball, it's it's a lie. So
Okay,
don't lie to someone.
I want to argue with you a little bit on this one.
Okay.
Like, and obviously I live the other side of the world, so baseball is not a big thing. American football is non-existent, right?
Right. I
That
just
does
I just use sports as an example.
no,
So
no, that's fine. I actually really like sport, so maybe I would like baseball. How do I know? Like, I don't actually know. So
right,
take
but
me on a date to a baseball game.
yeah,
Like
there
it's
are people there. I guess you could just say sports.
yeah,
There are because I love every sport.
because
But
I
I
would love.
also love the theater. And you, if you but if you lie to someone and you say, "Oh, I love going to the symphony."
Mm.
If I would tell you that, that would be a lie. If you really love the symphony and I tell you, "Oh, yeah, I love it." And then we get married and I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm not going to the symphony."
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes, yes, straight out lying would certainly that. I mean, that's a should not lie in on any topic. That's
No.
because
I
the
think
trust is such
I
a big.
actually just went on a date with this very thing because and it was baseball actually. He said, do you like baseball? And I love sports. My favorite is basketball. I like football, but I've never in Salt Lake, we don't even have a baseball team. So it's like, I've never really gone to baseball games,
The bees, come on.
Yeah, yeah, the bees. Is that what they're called now?
Yeah.
They've changed a few times. But so anyway, and I just said I love sports and I can be taught, but that's the truth. Is that I love being in an arena with all the excitement. I was actually just at a baseball game.
Right.
But um so
That's a really good thing. I mean, if you love sports, that's great. But if you don't love sports, tell them you
yes,
don't love
yes,
sports.
yes, yeah. I
And
think
don't
that's
tell me you love sports and then turn around once we're in a relationship or even a marriage and say, "Yeah, I don't really like sports."
Yeah, no. And I totally agree about the symphony because there's nothing worse if you don't like the symphony than sitting through a symphony.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah,
really
but so I just be honest, be who
Yeah,
you are.
yeah.
Always be who you are because we all have different likes. I will tell you this, political beliefs is another one.
Mm,
If you are going to be more comfortable with someone of your own political belief, then just tell them.
yeah,
Just tell them, okay, I'm not going to be comfortable with you being this of us being different political beliefs. Religion, the same thing, right? And
sure.
Kim, you just said that before. It doesn't matter as long as you're being honest with me, right? If you're saying, I'm not active in the church, fine. At least you were honest. And you could tell, so how many times have people tell you, oh, I'm really active in the church? You see it on their dating app. And you
Yeah,
get together with him and they're like, well, I don't really go to church that much. Well, you just lied to me.
yeah. I've told Kay this many times. It says on Mutual, I want a temple marriage, and then I go out with them and they say, well, I haven't gone to church since my divorce. Like, really? But
So,
I still have a testimony. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm thinking to myself, well, that's not the kind of testimony I really want to date.
right. And so you're lying.
Yeah.
So don't lie. So it's one of the most frustrating things with dating apps is when that happens. So
Yeah, I think people get stuck, and it may be, I think your advice about it's just dinner is great advice because as soon as it gets turned into, I have to get them to like me, or I have to make this conquest, or I have to somehow entice them for a second date, it changes the whole dynamic of just
right,
getting to know somebody and having a good time. So I
right.
think,
We
yeah.
had a guest on our podcast who said that when she was single, she would find someone on the dating app, she'd match with them, and then she'd go into her own profile and change it to match his
Wow.
because she wanted him to ask her out. So she would go in and change it. And then she said, I kept doing that. And I would meet these guys and I had really nothing in common with them. And she goes, finally, I just said, okay, just be yourself. Just put something in the dating profile or just who you are and be yourself. And she said eventually she ended up meeting her husband and they had a ton of stuff in common. But that's what, you're trying to fit in, like you just said, Kim, we're trying to fit into someone else's life, trying to get them to like us and being fake about it.
Yeah.
So I have to do this so you'll like me. Yeah, I
There
mean,
was
be yourself.
one podcast I listened to, and one bit of advice struck me was to date someone that you would actually choose not to date. I think something like that it said. No?
I don't know what that means.
Just to confirm that that really isn't what you would choose?
No, I think it was that I don't know, maybe this was my interpretation of what it meant, but it was sort of like often we're choosing people on looks. And as you said, we're making assumptions about whether they'd like us or not, or whether we would like them. Maybe you certainly see it with the young adult men. They sort of like, she's too overweight or she's not pretty enough or something. And so they're choosing not to date, where they're missing out on some really nice people.
Well, physical attraction is a really important thing. And if you aren't physically attracted to someone, you're not going to have a very good marriage, right?
No.
So physical attraction is really important. And so I do see that when you're flipping through the apps that you're judging someone based on that first picture that they have. And you're saying, then you like stop and look at it and you're like, okay, let me look at everything else here. But that's that first picture. By the way, that's why that first picture is so important. That first picture is your first time to judge them. And I think physical attraction, is really important because getting into a marriage and you're not physically attracted, then you lose intimacy and you lose all those other things. And so I don't know. I'm gonna be bold and say this, but I think physical attraction is like the most important at the beginning. Then all the other things have to go beyond that. So I hope I didn't make a lot of enemies on that one. So,
well, whether you did or not, I think it's definitely a reality for men that they are. I mean, it's a statistic that they are more visual.
Right.
So.
Right.
So that brings up the question of like when, talking about our age group now, we're dating people who have got gray hair and wrinkles and, maybe some extra weight and, like we're not our attractive 18-year-old selves.
But I would say, Kay, that we can be.
I'll never look like. No, I've been going through old photos. I don't look anything like that.
No, we won't look like we used to, but we can still be attractive. We can still wear the right clothes. We can do our hair correctly. We can wear really cool glasses like you guys have. We can wear great looking shoes. We can do all of those things. We're not going to look like we used to. We can lose weight, right? We can exercise. We can be more fit. We can we can do all of those things. And that's all under our own control to be able to do those things. And if we just sit in the house and we be who we are right now, then we're always going to be the same boring self. But, if we want to be more attractive, then we have to work at being attractive and being attractive as a 60-year-old, right? I mean, it's not like, which, again, there's
we're
no
not
reason.
condoning plastic surgery or Botox.
Well, yeah, no, we don't need to go that far. So we're always going to have bags under our eyes. We're going to have gray hair.
Or wrinkles.
But,
glasses.
there's so much under our own control that we can fix if we want to. And and attraction, being attractive is a state of mind too, right? It's like the way you talk, the way you carry yourself. When we're out to dinner, it's the way that you have eye contact with me. It's the way that you touch my hand. It's all of those things. And all of a sudden you become more physically attractive the longer we talk and the more engaging we are, right? And so all of those things are important.
That was what I was sort of thinking, I guess, is that as we talk to someone and we realize how much fun they are or how many interests they've got in common, that they actually, they seem to become more physically attractive.
Yeah, it's called a spark. Once you have that spark, then all of a sudden you look across the table and you go, okay, yeah, I thought she was pretty, but wow, she's really pretty. Right? So, or he's really handsome.
Mm.
And it's because you concentrate on eye contact and then carrying yourself and being confident and all the things that help you be attractive, the things under your own control. But don't lie.
Yeah.
Don't fix yourself up to be beautiful if that's not who you are day to day. Be yourself. And if the person doesn't like you as who you are, that's okay. Move on to somebody else.
All right. Well, we're going to talk some more to you because, yeah, we'll do that one on the dating app profiles. I would really like to tell so many of the men how to take a photo. Oh, that's fun.
Okay, well,
Or at
but the
least just
women
smile.
too.
Women too.
Yeah,
'Cause
we
we
always
do-
talk. We
Because we
always
have
talk
this
about the
Facebook.
RBF. You guys know the RBF?
Tell us.
I don't know if I can say it on your podcast, but it's called the resting bitch face.
All right.
And guys do it too, where it's
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that one.
Dude, we
Yeah.
see those a lot.
how can you have that photo in your profile where you're
Mm.
and then you're like, okay, I don't
We're
want to be
looking up
around
their
that person.
nose and stuff. Yeah.
They're
So
they're
we'll
so
definitely
angry.
talk more about that because we've got a Facebook group and they, we have to approve people to come on. And I'm like, oh, could you just go get another photo, please? Like,
Because you have to be more attractive than that, right? I could go on and on about dating profiles because
okay, well, we will get you back.
they make me so angry. So
We'll do dating profiles because people are using them, even though I'm not sure why. So you'll have to convince me even to use them. So Tom, all you have to do is fly halfway around the world and I'll go on a date with you. How's that? And I'll talk to you about Australian rules football rather than American football.
well, you know what? Here's the thing. I love Australian rules football.
Good. We've already got one in common.
Yeah, no, I love it. I used to watch it on ESPN back in the day. So yeah, so that's great.
And I live in a city called Brisbane, and Brisbane won the grand final last year, and they're like on their way to win it again this year. So it's like,
Okay.
yes.
Now I have a reason to go to Australia.
Yeah. Come and watch the grand
final. And if I could get Kim to just ask me out to dinner. By the way, I haven't mentioned that.
You too.
I'll go to dinner with you anytime, Tom. Just
you're not in the same city. At least that, like, you and I have a problem called,
we're only 30 minutes away from each other.
Oh, that's terrible. But I do want to say this. This is 2025. It is okay for a woman to ask a man out or to dinner. It's okay. So if you're on a dating app or you see someone or you meet someone, and I just told you why he's not asking you because he has so much self-doubt. Just ask him.
We should do a whole thing on that. I mean, I go to the dances and I'm so traditional, like to ask a guy to go dance. And I think I really should get over that. But we should really just do a whole podcast on
get over
the old rules, throwing out the old rules.
We should. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got 2 podcasts already. So Tom, we'll be seeing some more of you. And it's been wonderful to have you. That's been a really fun conversation.
Thank you. Now you guys have to promise to come on my podcast so we can get you on Dating Made Simple. So
yeah, well,
no. Kay's like, well, I got to go on a few more dates, but
yeah, that's right.
We just want your wisdom. We just want all your guidance and help that you can help people.
Brilliant on wisdom, but so my husband died 8.5 years ago, and I have never been on a date since. And it's not that I don't like men or anything. It's I haven't been on any dates, so I'm not.
You go to a lot of singles events.
I go to single, all women.
Yeah, she has a low population of LDS men there, so.
Oh, yeah, we've got. I mean, I would imagine our demographics are actually quite similar in that we've got lots of people who don't even go to the single events. Lots of people who refuse to go to the single events. So yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, before we close, I have one piece of advice for you: is stop dating. Just go to dinner. So, because you said I've never been on a date. Okay, that's fine. Just ask someone to go to dinner.
That's
Well,
perfect.
there isn't actually too many people to ask, but yeah.
Just
Just
ask.
find one. Just find one. Make it your goal.
Oh,
Hey, and again, it's not. There's no pressure for dinner, right? Hey, let's go out and get some dinner and talk. So.
Right.
all right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Tom. Wonderful to have you here, and we look forward to some more. And we would happily be on your podcast.
Good.
Thank you.
All
Bye,
right.
everybody.
Thanks, Bye, Kay.
Bye.